Uganda, the land of beautiful natural parks, plenty of forests, rivers, lakes, and mountains, plantations of coffee, tea, and tobacco, and abundant in its variety of flora and fauna. It is a country of colorful fruit markets and friendly locals belonging to more than 40 different tribes with a rich diversity of culture and language. This land, referred to by Winston Churchill as the Pearl of Africa, was the destination of our trip and our home for the duration of the Never Lose Your Soul project. We started the trip with a bus ride from Maribor to Venice Airport, from where we flew to the Doha Airport in Qatar. We spent the night there and took an early flight the next morning to the Entebbe Airport in Uganda, where we landed around noon. From there, 2 minibuses took us on a 9-hour drive along a rugged road full of speed bumps that led us to the city of Kabale in the southwest of Uganda. In between, we stopped to put on record that we have reached the equator. It was now just 317 kilometers to the shore of Lake Bunyoni. After spending the last hour of our journey on 2 boats beneath the starry sky of the equator, we reached our final destination, the Buremba Peninsula. At 3 a.m. in the morning, and with a 36-hour journey behind us, we set up our camp. The aim of the Never Lose Your Soul project, as part of the Erasmus Plus program, is to develop an international model for solving economic migration, so that young, educated people can find work in their local environment. The goal is to slow down immigration and the loss of human capital and workforce for local communities. Young people from the shore of Lake Bunyoni told us why projects like this matter to them.
My name is Emily. I'm 17 years old. I studied from Lake Bunyoni Secondary School in senior city class. It was a sample.
I'm called Comfort. I studied at Lake Bunyoni Secondary School in senior 4. Aged 18.
Now?
Me, I can add.
And I felt that I should work harder and harder so that my family, my community can develop to the extent of other cities. Yes.
Using the metaphor of bird migrations, we will be developing a sustainable economic model based around entrepreneurial skills and opportunities offered by national parks. The project involves the high school Druga Gimnazija Maribor as a leading partner, DOPS, the Slovene Association for Birdwatching and the Study of Birds, and CESAM, the Youth Centre of Ruše, all from Slovenia, the National College Stefan cel Mare Harleu from Romania, and the Lake Bunyoni Secondary School from Uganda. The lake and little islands reminded us of the Pacific Ocean when we looked out of our tents on the very first morning. Lake Bunyoni, which translates to the Lake of Many Small Birds, lies at an altitude of 2,000 meters above sea level, is of volcanic origin, has 29 little natural islands, and is one of the deepest lakes in Africa. Ronald, our host, took us to the Burimba Peninsula after breakfast to visit the Asimba Preparatory School. The children, aged between 5 and 12, welcomed us with songs and dancing in the meadow in front of the school. After the visit, we went to the top of the Burimba Peninsula. The view on the top was an incredible experience, and we did not regret the effort we had to put into climbing up the hill. After returning to the camp, we couldn't resist taking the first swim in the lake. The fear of any dangerous intestinal parasites is not called for, as Lake Bunyoni is one of the few in Africa with no danger of snail fever. However, we did not expect a swarm of angry bees whose nest was burned by the locals during the construction of a pier. They were upset and attacked us as soon as we approached the pier. The previous evening, we formed working groups and assigned specific tasks to each. It was still dark when the project documentation teams and the guys from DOPS were getting ready for their task. The first group went to the top of the peninsula to record the sunrise and capture the morning view of the lake from above, while the second group aimed to capture the early morning birds. The other groups, the collectors of African stories, the dance music group, the swimming instructors, and the biodiversity researchers attended to their assignments after breakfast prepared by the cooking team. The highest peak of the Burimba Peninsula, where one can indulge in the most beautiful view of the lake and the island, was 1 hour walking distance away from our camp. We could observe the sunrise at 7:15 when the sun appeared on the horizon and rose unusually rapidly in the sky, so that the performance was over in only a couple of minutes. We were returning through the village beneath the hill, with the villagers already awake and ready to start work. Katya and Zala tirelessly took portraits of the children who enthusiastically posed in front of their camera. On our way back, we met the birdwatching team who passionately told us about the various birds they could photograph and catalogue. Ronald was leading a music and dance workshop. And as there was still time before lunch, we joined in. The children of Burimba were very much at ease at the spontaneous musical and dancing performances. They found it much harder talking into the camera about where they learned the dancing and the singing.
Make melodies.
Make melodies. Make melodies. King Rosa, Samza, Testa, Elizabeth. Make melodies in Baya, make melodies in Baya, make melodies in Baya. I sing Rosa, Samza, Testa, Elizabeth.
On the other hand, the members of our project needed a bit of practice getting involved with the dancing and the singing.
Very good. Okay.
But we're happy to talk about their experiences.
We learn about the party songs when we are all happy or when we just enjoy visitors coming and seeing this wonderful place. The rhythm at first might be hard, but after that it's just magic. We just play like that.
The song is very hard, to sing in different language, and it looks very exhausting.
In the afternoon, we visited the nearby island of New Era, the home of Scottish missionary Dr. Leonard Sharp and his family. In 1931, Dr. Sharp founded the largest leprosy hospital in this part of Africa on the island of Bwama. While Dr. Sharp received all the praise and fame, the hospital was in fact led by the nuns and nurses from England. By 1948, the hospital and shelter at Bwami had more than 1,000 patients. They were all buried on the island, however, where their graves are located is still not known by today. The former leprosy hospital now serves as student housing. The hotel settlement on the nearby island of Bushara was our next destination. The owners showed us the whole capacity of the settlement, however, we could only spot a single tourist. On the way back to our boat, we met zebras, impalas and chimpanzees that the owners brought to the island to establish a zoo. In the morning of day 3, we visited an Anglican church, not more than half an hour by foot from our camp. We were lucky that baptism was taking place and we could observe the ceremony and join in the celebrations with singing. For the occasion, the locals dressed in their best garments, and we could admire the beautiful colours and patterns.
Started living with the lepers.
Hello members, our guide Nicholas, a biology teacher, greeted us as we arrived at the island of Bwama. Today, the island hosts a modern hospital led by Slovenian medical students. It was set up with the help of the tropical medicine section of the Faculty of Medicine in Ljubljana and the humanitarian organization Edirisa. The staff at the hospital talked to us about the importance of the Slovenian involvement in running it.
Is a bit a challenge here. So during the days when these Slovenians are not here, then we don't get so many patients, and we don't also receive so many mothers to deliver from here.
The Lake Bunyoni Secondary School, our partner in the Never Lose Your Soul project, was our next goal. To learn a bit more about the Ugandan school system, we explored the Edirisa website. Here is what it says. In Uganda, schooling opportunities are not many. Sometimes there is none. There are too few schools and teachers, education is expensive, and there is a lack of teaching resources. The school system does not encourage creativity and practical skills. Children do not learn enough about their own culture and the world in which they live. When Nicholas addressed us again with "Hello members" in the classroom, more than his explanation of the teaching methods, we paid attention to the look and equipment of the classroom. Carrying textbooks, the gifts of Druga Gimnazija Maribor, we went to the school library, hoping the textbooks written in English could benefit any of the students in the school. The students were happy to see us and invited us to a volleyball match. It was already evening when the teachers and students invited us to a dance show in a classroom. In no time, they created a cheerful and inviting atmosphere. All they needed was the beating of the drum, and their singing and dancing could commence.
Most of the children, they are not focused.
The African Stories group heard about an elderly woman who successfully escaped from the punishment island for pregnant women. The natives of Lake Bunyoni used to punish girls who became pregnant before marriage by taking them to a small, about 200 square meters large island in the middle of the lake. As the women were unable to swim, they were condemned to a slow and painful death. However, sometimes they would be saved by men who had no money to purchase a bride. The hero of our story is an elderly lady in her 90s. James, our guide, told us at the outset that she would want some money in exchange for telling us her story. Julia, determined not to give more than 30,000 Ugandan shillings, took the negotiations over. After half an hour, when our cameraman Dayan started worrying over the day getting darker and there not being enough light for filming, we agreed on 40,000 shillings, about 12 euros and a couple of cents, exactly the amount of money we had on us. She was then ready to tell us her story.
One of the lucky girls we are picked from there is still alive, and she's this one here.
Ekikooko kyakirenda kulunja Yesu yankwatirira enjubu zirenda kulunja Yesu yankwatirira n'abona omushaija.
4 days after being left on the island, she was saved from certain death by a young fisherman who told her family that he's going to marry her but is not going to pay a single shilling for his bride. They had 8 children together and a lot of grandchildren. The husband died a long while ago, but she is a happy woman, so happy she sang to us about it.
Praise Jesus.
Jesus
is great. Our God is so great.
Another interesting story awaited us in the afternoon. We boarded the boat and sailed the lake in the direction of the border with Rwanda to visit the village of Pygmies, low-lying people with women on average about 1 meter and 35 centimeters tall and men just a couple of centimeters taller. According to scientists, their height is a result of suboptimal living conditions, especially poor nutrition. They stop growing around the age of 13 and form a family when they are 15 or 16, about 3 years earlier than other African tribes. Their lifespan is between 16 and 24 years. Almost all of their daily activities are accompanied by music. The singing is predominantly a woman's trade, while the men dance, or as they say, walk to music. The most common musical instrument of the Pygmies is their voice, but occasionally they will also use drums, which they already learned to play as children. The state administered them a piece of land on a remote peak, which we reached after almost 45 minutes of uphill walking. The settlement was as busy as a beehive. The children and their parents looked at us as curiously as we looked at them. They prepared a cultural program with plenty of dance and singing and offered us their products for sale, including small figurines, arches, knitted baskets and bracelets. They were happy to sell them for some spare change and the novelty we brought to their day. People at Lake Bunyoni generally don't know how to swim. Because of that, many, especially young children, drown. If their boat, often made out of a trunk of a tree, overturns, they can be helpless. Knowing how to swim can save your life. Therefore, one of the most important missions of the project was to teach children how to swim. The day was cloudy and cold, and the swimmers and the teachers, coming out of the cold lake water, were freezing. The solution was straightforward: setting up a fire. The local boys didn't need any more prompting. With machetes, they cut the branches of nearby trees for the fire. After lunch, we boarded the boats to visit a local witch doctor, one that the natives still trust more than the doctors in hospitals. After 45 minutes, a steep uphill walk from the coast, we reached his hut. Nicholas, who served as a translator, looked clearly in awe and full of respect for the witch doctor.
Okay.
To introduce himself, he told us that he has had 5 wives, 50 children, and is about 100 years old. Part of our group were 3 Slovenian volunteers, of which 2 were medical students. The conversation with the witch doctor became particularly interesting when he explained how his treatment works. To simplify a bit, if a person is ill, it is because an evil spirit has settled within them, and therefore the witch doctor's role is to expel the evil spirit from the human body. But as there are several types of evil spirits, he must first diagnose which one it is. How he makes this diagnosis was of serious interest to our medical students. In the afternoon, our camp was visited by locals who displayed their handcraft skills while creating various products. The girls joined in the knitting of baskets, hats, and bracelets, while the guys were taught how to use a machete to cut out a wooden roller used for making a pancake of sorts, which is eaten instead of bread and on which we spread all kinds of traditional and less traditional specialties, like jam, avocados, and Nutella. And while the average European hands took about 3 hours to create one wooden roller, the local masters of the trade made 3 in the same time, and even had time to polish the product with sandpaper. At an improvised market, we could admire and purchase products made at the workshops, as well as those that the locals brought with them. Bracelets sold at 1,000 shillings, or about 30 cents, while the fruit baskets and hats were about 5,000 shillings, or €1.50. Our improvised market proved to bring a lot of joy to the afternoon. On the sunlit Sunday morning, the 6th day of our adventure, we were gliding with a boat between the green islands of the lake. Our first destination was the bay where we arrived on the first night. A bus was waiting for us to take us to Kabale. The city, 420 kilometers southwest of Kampala, the capital of Uganda, has 45,000 inhabitants and is the administrative center of the district, with banking vaults of the Ugandan National Bank, a university, an airport, hospital, an Anglican church, a shopping center, and a large market. One of the groups explored a local museum and learned about the way of life of the people who lived in this area in the past. With some spare time left, we went to the restaurant of the White Horse Hotel, located on a hill in the elite part of the city, where the politicians of Uganda and Rwanda attend common meetings. Professor Keut treated us to cold cokes, which we drank under the shade of the trees of a beautiful park, where we hid to escape the heat of the day. In the meantime, another group made a visit to a man whose responsibility is to keep the local Ruchiga language alive. He talked to us about the importance of this work and what it entails.
With my work, I try to preserve the language and culture of the people of the Ruchiga, which would otherwise be extinct. That's why I made a museum which is almost 50 years old. This is also how we remember the roots of our people.
After that, we all together drove just a bit out of Kabale to visit a fair trade store which employs women as seamstresses under decent working conditions and helps them earn some money and provide for their families. Back in the center of Kabale, we visited an Anglican church. While still under construction, this does not prevent the churchgoers to perform and attend ceremonies. It is located along a wide street full of shops run by the local Indian community. In 1972, the regime of General Idi Amin banished them out of Uganda, which at that time caused the collapse of the economy. After his fall in 1978, many have returned. Visiting a major market in Kabale is an experience in itself. African markets are picturesque and colourful, full of fruit, vegetables, as well as clothing and footwear. You can find everything the locals may need in their daily life. The noise of the many smiling and chatty sellers calling the buyers to purchase their products quickly becomes a pleasant melody, an enjoyable backdrop to the experience. Once we converted the local prices to euros, the market became even more likeable. We found workshops for repairing motorcycles right next to butchers and stores selling rice, all in one place. We decided against the meat from the local butchers, even though we would get a couple of hundred flies with it for free. Instead, we bought fruit which we gifted to the children from the Casa institution, a place for orphans and children whose parents cannot afford to support them. The children prepared a reception for us, full of songs and dancing. We were all invited to introduce ourselves, and our girls delighted the locals with songs and games. The children also shared their experiences of living at a Casa institution.
Yeah, we have 8 beds.
8 for 60 students, for 60 kids actually.
So on each bed, double bed, we sleep on 3 or 2, according to when it is holiday. They are somehow at home, and when it becomes time for school, some are also here. So some of them, some are boarders and others are the scholars. So when it comes for time for the scholars, they will be like 2-2, and when we all combined, like when we say that the all of the Casa children should come, there we will be sleeping like 3-3.
Like most days, we found ourselves on a boat on the lake. This time we were going in the direction towards the border with Rwanda. The focus of this day was on the team that has been documenting and photographing the local birds since we arrived. Up until now, they have recorded more than 200 species of birds and were excitedly reporting on every new species they could add to this collection. We took the boat as far as possible, anchored it, and as we stepped on the land, we were spotted by the children from a nearby village. They observed us with curiosity, and as we were walking deeper into the land, they followed us on our way. Just like them, we were full of fascination with what we have seen during the bird watching.
We are at the southern tip of the lake, and across those fields there is already a border with Rwanda. We've saw some quite interesting species today, and I think the highlight was blue-headed cuckoo. Objective of birdwatching group is to observe as many bird species as possible, to also map them. All those gathered data will also be base for some educational material we also want to produce for local schools to use it, to raise awareness and to inspire young children in birdwatching.
Wow, birdwatching trips was so interesting because in these trips I have learned many species of birds, like of weavers. We have got sunbirds, in the species of sunbirds, even herons. Because as now I know many birds, many species, I can now take visitors for bird watching, and then I tell them, I show them the species. Yeah, so it can give us employment opportunities.
Okay.
We people of Bunyonyi.
Now and then, we would send worried looks towards the grey sky. It was raining the previous night, and our clothes and shoes were drenched. But we were lucky this time. We returned to our camp before the rain started to fall. In the afternoon, the locals prepared a brick-making workshop for us, showing us how to make the bricks from which almost all the houses around Lake Bunyonyi are made. Loam and clay are pressed into a wooden model. Then the brick shape is taken out and placed on the ground, where it lies for 3 days. The half-dried brick is then put in the oven and baked until it's dry and hard and very much resembling the bricks we have seen everywhere we travelled in Uganda. As the time of our departure was slowly approaching, we presented our hosts with small gifts which they gratefully accepted. Our minds were already wandering to packing our stuff and cleaning our camp, and reminiscing of the experiences we were able to gather by spending time in a part of the world so different from ours.
Within the project guidelines, we had the freedom to get in touch with people. We got to know their culture from a different point of view than we did last year or through many documentaries. We got to feel the warmth and the vibe they shared with us. The legend about the Punishment Island is the most told story around the lake, so getting a chance to listen to a survivor talking about it and managing to keep her emotions in check and captivate us solely with her words was an amazing experience.
Never Lose Your Soul is a project who gives me a chance to know new people, to find a story.
In the evening, our host Ronald and his parents and friends prepared a goodbye party for us. To make us feel like honoured guests, they prepared an elaborate dinner. To the disappointment of our girls, the little goat that was skipping around during our stay also ended on the plates. The locals would keep a fireplace burning throughout the days and nights. For them it was the main meeting point, and for us a place to warm ourselves in the evenings and reflect on everything we have experienced on our trip. The music which, just for the occasion, Ronald was streaming with the help of a rechargeable battery, did not quiet down till midnight. At 4 o'clock in the morning, when it was still dark, we were already on the pier, loading our luggage on the boats. As the hill we descended from the camp was wet from the rain, our luggage and clothes were full of mud. Peko, Ronald's 10-year-old adopted child, came to say goodbye to our muddy group. During our stay, we became really fond of him due to his cleverness and wits. He would often make a fire and roast potatoes for us as we would be coming home from our trips, all wet and cold. The boats brought us from our pier to the port where the bus was waiting for us. We bid our goodbyes to Ronald and boarded a bus for the journey to Rutinda and the Queen Elizabeth National Park. Our guides were already waiting for us and took us for a 4-hour walk around the virgin forest to observe the local chimpanzees. After 2.5 hours, we finally spotted the first ones and pointed our camera lenses to the treetops high above us. There we could see Victor playing with her mate. The guides told us about the different names of the chimpanzee families, which they also follow with GPS. The day's timetable was still full and we headed back to the buses and were on our way to the Kazinga Channel View Resort. The afternoon was to be spent observing lake animals with a tourist observation boat on Lake George. We saw hippos, looking friendly and amicable, and yet for humans the deadliest animal on the planet. Hippos kill more people than lions, bears, snakes, or any other dangerous animal. The locals around here have a saying, never trust the smile of a hippo. Herds of buffaloes were observing us curiously on our way, while the Dobskis found new birds to add to their catalogue. On our return, we settled at the bush resort, lit a campfire, and ended the evening by chatting about everything we saw and experienced in Uganda. Very early in the morning, we excitedly headed to the savannah to take part in a photo safari. SUVs with raised roofs were waiting for us in front of our resort, and our guide asked us what animals we were most excited to see. Lions, we all agreed. While the guide could not promise with certainty that we will be able to spot those, he did assure us we will see elephants, hippos, wild boars, and a lot of impalas. The SUV drivers, not fans of slow driving, eagerly stepped on the gas. Those of us, placed on the roofs of the SUVs, were a bit less eager on the speed, but excited about the photo safari about to begin. Indeed, by the time we were returning to the hotel, we ticked off all the animals of the list that the guide promised us in the morning. Late in the afternoon, we even spotted a family of lions, from afar and only with the help of binoculars, but it counted. In the evening, we had a surprise party for Jakob and Lana, who celebrated their birthday. On the last day of our stay in Uganda, we visited the Turo Botanical Garden near the city of Fort Portal. The city is 300 kilometers away from Kampala, with 41,000 inhabitants, 2 hospitals, a university, and 2 churches. The fort, in the city's name, hints to the colonial times, when this was a military base of the British Army. The Botanical Garden is named after the ancient kingdom of Turo, the center of which was in Fort Portal. After lunch in the middle of the city, we went for a tour of the Botanical Garden, the aim of which is to protect endemic tree species from extinction. The Turo Botanical Garden was really worth the visit, and we immensely enjoyed the rich botanical and historical knowledge of our guide. The dinner at the Kazinga Bush Resort was our last in Uganda. We had 11 unforgettable days, Lake Bunyoni, the national parks, Bwindi, Queen Elizabeth Park and the Turo Botanical Gardens behind us. In the morning, we headed to the Entebbe airport and began our 30-hour journey towards home.
Yay! GoPro, stop recording.
Joseph Kioko, bingwa wa salamu.